Your Eminence, Reverend Fathers, Presbyteros, honored guests, delegates, brothers and sisters in Christ, please allow me to share my working title. It's a work in progress. The name of my presentation, Marketing Jesus. You see that? Yeah, you do. Okay, good. What do you think? Yes? No? Eh? Okay, well, so one of my, I checked with one of my friends who's she's Orthodox, she was former Protestant. She shuddered when I shared this title with her. Visions of her former life came rushing back. Evangelical marketing attempts to sell their church's brand of Christianity, being encouraged weekly to improve their sales. So I figured, well, maybe that's no good. And of course, the idea of marketing makes us think of maybe 1950s era marketing agencies, Don Draper from Mad Men. So the idea of marketing makes us think that whatever it is we're trying to sell, and we need to polish it up to the best possible state that it can be in order to convince our consumers that they need to buy it. Of course, we shouldn't be doing that with the gospel message. But that brings us back to the title, Marketing Jesus. Is there some element about it that might be okay? So sure, marketing can be all the things that we do not want or should not want to be doing with the gospel message. But it can also be highly beneficial to our preaching and sharing of the good news. Of course, with discernment, we must not be afraid of various industry-proven marketing techniques and business practices to present our parishes to the world. It is true our parishes are more than just businesses, but there are plenty of ways in which we require business techniques in our parishes every day. And we don't question any of those other principles, whether it's accounting or fundraising, leadership techniques, or more. But we seem to shy away from that word marketing, because words are important, right? So maybe for this audience, the following presentation's title might be more appropriate. How about an Orthodox hermeneutic for the dissemination of the essential gospel message to a 21st century audience? Is that good? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time at the seminary. My offices are on campus at Holy Cross, and I often see flyers that resemble this title. Perhaps some of the, and this is not a dig on the seminary, but we're fervent in our desire to use the big words that we're learning there. And maybe you've seen titles like this in your parishes. But does this get the message across to our audiences? Is this going to work for the people with whom we want to communicate? Well, how about maybe something like this? How to share the good news we have been given in a digital age. It's a little better. Simple. It communicates what I'm about to share with you. And it'll work for I hope, for a general audience that might see it. So that's what I'm calling this talk tonight. Words matter. It's about using the right words for the right audience, at the right time and in the right place. We hope that our message will speak for itself, but oftentimes the presentation itself can be understood as the message. And it can be misunderstood because of maybe preconceived notions that we have about certain words and certain contexts that we have. But because we're talking about communicating in the digital age, there's another title that I wanted to just try out and see if it works for any of you guys. So maybe this crowd right here, it doesn't work for, but a lot of your parishioners it does. Whether they're teenagers, young adults, emojis. We communicate in images more and more nowadays, and maybe some of you communicate in images, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or the like. It's a new reality. Maybe we're uncomfortable with it, but this says exactly what that last title was. I'm communicating the gospel message in a digital age and hoping that people will hear it. Maybe not. We'll go back to that last one. But let's get started. Now, because we're speaking about missions and evangelism in this current assembly that's gathered, I'm going to assume that we want to be known in our parishes, and we want to know those who surround us, even if that's not how we're currently communicating. But that's going to be my assumption going forward. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, as part of the Sermon on the Mount, Christ tells us, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Nor do men light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Christ clearly wants us to share that light with others. Why wouldn't we use the best that the technology of the modern world has to offer, along with the best business practices that are at our disposal to try to do so? So this is an image, a photo of my parish on Great and Holy Friday night. We are in procession down Massachusetts Ave in Cambridge, Massachusetts, one of the busiest streets in town. And we're on our way to meet up with the Greek Orthodox parish that is a few blocks away from us. Along the way, you can see we're passing our neighbors, local businesses, families, homeless people, and more. This is one of our only times, I would say, that we make ourselves known, really in a public way to our neighbors. And this may be the only thing that they ever see and experience of us. I'm not saying we don't do other things. We do. We have other outreach and attempts to integrate into the community in various ways, fundraisers and things like that. But this is probably the most visible ways, and I often wonder what it is that they're thinking as we process by and then process back. So most of us are here are in local parishes, with a few exceptions. These parishes are grounded in the communities that surround us. We have the opportunity and the responsibility to share the good news actively with them. And there are many ways to do so. I would say this is a passive attempt. If someone actually wants to find out who are these weird guys in dresses that are walking down the street, they can follow us back to the parish and maybe learn a thing or two. But we're not actively doing much. We're lucky that we have this opportunity to process outside in our busy city. But we're not really doing that much more. But even if we're not prepared to actively reach out, we should at least be prepared to be found through passive communication. And the internet allows us to do that more easily than ever. The space that we occupy and the work that we do in our communities will hopefully then inspire others to seek us out. And I want you to ponder that, and maybe now or when you go back to your communities with your parish councils and ministry leaders, I want you to ask some of these questions. These are questions that hopefully you can come up with some answers, and even if they're not the answers you want, maybe it can lead you to some new possibilities. Are we actually making ourselves known in our communities? Better yet, do we even want to be known? Are we a place and a gathering of people that is appealing to others, those that are not like us? Are we a community that actually wants to know and welcome others who have never been a part of our community before? I ask these questions not in judgment, but in curiosity. We all have work to do. We all have great potential and great opportunity at our hands. Every community is different, has different needs, has different strengths and limitations, and it is made up of different people. But we all can and should want to be known by the communities that surround us. So this brings me to point number one. Defining our mission, vision, values, and goals are crucial in focusing on who you are, where you want to go, where you want to be, and most important, why you exist. We should often return to these questions every few years as our circumstances change. Perhaps the mission of your parish 50 years ago is not the mission of your parish today, but you're still operating with the mindset and constraints given to you by that 50-year-old mission. I will today just touch on one point from that, which should be the foundation of all the things you do. It's that last point. Always remember and focus on the why. Start with why. So there's an author and speaker. Some of you may have seen him on a video online or read one of his books. His name is Sinek. I believe that's how you say his last name. I could be wrong. My apologies, Mr. Sinek, if you ever see this. So Mr. Sinek codified this in what he calls the golden circle. You can find a video online with over 34 million views of his TED Talk, where he shares his theories from the year 2009. So his theory on the golden circle is as follows. Every organization, and for our purposes, every parish, knows what they do. We serve liturgy on Sundays. We have our organizations and ministries. We run church schools and Greek festivals. We feed the poor. We visit the sick. And I'm sure lots more. And our communities know how they do it. Dozens of years of institutional knowledge are shared amongst our parishioners, no doubt, to ensure that the lights can turn on every Sunday morning, that the souvlaki is cooked just the right way, and so on. But oftentimes, we forget about the why. Or perhaps our why is not really at the core of who we are. What we're talking about here is the real why. In other words, why does your parish exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone else care? And is this why of your parish adopted by your parishioners? Have your parishioners accepted that why, and do they live that why in their own lives? So a key example that he offers is from Apple Computer. Apple is, as many of you know, a computer company, just like all of the other computer companies out there. But instead of leading with the what, they have led with the why. For everyone else, they lead with the what. We make great computers. Okay, but so what? When there's everyone else making great computers, there's plenty of other computer companies out there. So Apple leads with the why. In talking about Apple, Sinek says, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. We challenge the status quo by making our products beautifully designed, simple, and user-friendly. Now, if you had never heard of Apple Computer before, but you've heard that statement, what would you think they make? We don't know, but I think I want to be a part of that. I want whatever it is that they're selling. And in fact, that's what's happened. They began as a computer company, but have now become famous for not only selling computers, but MP3 players, music, smartphones, other mobile devices, tablets, TV shows, movies, and more. And I'm sure that list will grow and grow as their ability to infiltrate your lives with more and more of their products continues. Now granted, look at this, I'm an Apple user myself, and I'm proud to be, and I'm proud that the glowing apple is shining right back at me. And it's all because they think different, or want us to believe that we can think different too. They lead with the why, and they inspire others to be a part of that lifestyle they project. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, Sinek continues. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. So I ask, what it is you believe? What is your why? And have your parishioners believed it too? I don't know. So what's so amazing about Orthodox Christianity is that we have the best why ever, right? We have the opportunity to share the good news with people about eternal salvation. How amazing! But we often forget about that why because we are busy having to do a lot of other things. We have to do a lot of what's in our day-to-day lives. So St. Paul, he knew about this why. He reminds us in 1 Corinthians, if I give all that I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. If it's just about the what's, people won't be on board. The what's are never contagious, but the whys certainly are. If we believe in the why, it will compel others to believe in the why also. That is what is so great about brands like Apple Computer, Harley-Davidson, Nike, pick any of the companies that are up here. The dawning of my brand, note I say my brand, says something about me. That I use a Mac tells the world I'm different. I'm original. I'm creative. Yeah, sure, but along with millions of others who are also donning that brand. But it works, and we're convinced, and we keep going back to that fount over and over again. The question is, will people come to our fount? What does the donning of the name Christian tell the world about you? What message does it speak? And have your parishioners taken that responsibility on for themselves? So I know the real struggles that exist in parish life. I know that many struggle to keep their doors open week after week. Parishes need a steady cash flow in order to operate. We lament when pews are half empty on a Sunday morning. We get discouraged when we earnestly try to present the gospel, but it is met with resistance. I'm not an expert, and I'm not saying that focusing on the why will always work in the way that we expect it to work. We need to simply do our best and remain consistent and leave the rest up to God. We can stay true to that why that motivated the apostles and early Christians to communicate and share the good news in the face of death. So now on to part 2. Who is your audience? And with whom are you communicating? We need to tailor our message to match our audience. We saw a little bit of that with my exercise with the titles. Of course, you know the adage, preaching to the choir. And we all know that we need to do this, but I will say, just to be clear, we need to make sure that when we're talking to the choir, that our message is appropriate for the choir, right? And whatever group it is we're trying to reach, that the message that we're conveying is appropriate for them. So I must ask again, who is your audience? Who do you want your audience to be? Are you frustrated that there are no young people in your pews on Sunday morning? Do you hope to reach the disenfranchised, those who are seeking a new spiritual home? Perhaps your parish is in a shrinking community, and there are very few of your original families left with no one to replace them. Don't you have the opportunity to minister to those who still remain, living around in and around your community? Perhaps offering those who are suffering a glimmer of hope in the light of Christ that is in you. Isn't that your potential message? Or how about this one? Don't you wish to see more families in attendance? Perhaps seeing little kids running up and down the aisles? But they'd be banging their sippy cups on the pews, wouldn't they? And then they'll be upsetting Yaya, who's 3 rows up and trying to pray. So she keeps giving poor mom, who thought she was doing the right thing and bringing her kids to church, dirty looks. Has that ever happened? Maybe. We have to be careful that our implicit and explicit messaging is consistent. Perhaps our implicit message is, we want families with kids to come to church. But the implicit message is, if you do come, we don't want you to make any noise, and it's better that you really just stay outside in the narthex or the hall so you don't disturb the rest of us. Does that sound familiar? The whats are certainly important. It is important, for example, to offer services in the language of that ethnic community. And it is important to offer our annual festivals to celebrate culture and to raise money. But sometimes the well-intentioned whats create an implicit message that gets in the way of offering Christ to those who earnestly want to encounter him. And I know that we explored that this morning, in the keynote this morning, and it's a difficult topic. And I know Father Evan had said it already, but I wanted to reiterate it. So, perhaps our explicit message is that we are welcoming of all people, but the implicit message is we really care the most about one particular ethnicity based on how we currently operate. So if you're okay with that, you're welcome in. And the great thing about communications is that we can have the best of intention in what we're doing, and we can believe in what we're saying, but it's only half of the equation. And if the person that's hearing what we're saying interprets it different, in some ways that's on us to modify that message, or reach out so that they understand and we can come to a common understanding. You see, without even knowing it, you're already communicating so much with how your communities act and operate, whether you're conscious of it or not. I want you to think about what are some of the things that you are already saying. So what are some of the things that you're saying about your parish? What are some of the things that your parishioners are saying about your parish? Here's Don Draper again, and if it's not clear, they're standing in an elevator. So what I'm getting at here is, what is your elevator pitch? What is the elevator pitch that others say when asked about what your community is all about? If someone has the opportunity to say in one sentence, what is it that they're going to say? What will you want them to say? And are those two things in line? Will they say that's the parish in our town that serves the Lord and the poor of our community? Or will they say that's the parish that serves the best souvlaki around? And again, I'm not anti-souvlaki. I love it. Yeah. But if we have a chance to say one thing, what is it going to be? So at this point, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, this guy's in charge of internet ministries. We brought him all the way here. When are we going to hear about technology? Well, you're right. I didn't fly all this way to just tell you to smile, be nice, love others, share the light of Christ, and communicate. We all knew a lot of the things that I've said already. Hopefully they're not new concepts, but I wanted to say them. We need to cover them first because it is foundational, and it lays the groundwork upon which we will now add when we talk about technology. So we often think that technology will be the panacea to all of our problems, the thing that solves everything. Just throw some technology at it and we'll be all set, right? I'm not really sure about that. In the digital age, there are more ways than ever to be reached, and more ways than ever to reach your parishioners. Email, text message, website, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Twitter, Google+, and more. I could keep going. The list goes on, and I imagine many of you are using these platforms. Many of your parishioners are using these platforms. Perhaps it's too many ways to connect, too many ways to be reasonable for any one person to be expected to communicate what they have to say. And with all the ways that we communicate, there is all of this noise. And people start to shut down. I'm sure you and I shut down at how much information we are overloaded with on a daily basis. And if we're shutting down and we're overloaded, I imagine our parishioners feel the same way. Has anyone heard of the story about the gospel blimp? In 1960, author Joe Bailey wrote a short story about a well-intentioned church and the parishioners who thought that they could use a scripture-toting blimp to preach the gospel to their unbelieving neighbors. Long story short, the blimp ends up being a big waste of time, a nuisance to their neighbors, and a detractor to the gospel message. Now, two of the members of the church, George and Ethel, decided not to participate in the gospel ministry, in the blimp ministry, but instead spent their time getting to know their neighbors, sharing in their interests and hobbies, meeting for coffee, and eventually sharing the message of Jesus Christ with them directly, one-on-one, with purpose and care. And as a result, their neighbors convert and join their parish, despite the efforts of the blimp ministry. So I must ask, what blimps are floating in our churches or in our lives? What technological blimps are getting in your way of real relationship with your fellow parishioners, your family, friends, and neighbors? Now, if used properly, digital technology and online marketing can certainly assist your parish in spreading the good news. But we must never forget our ability to connect one-on-one with an individual, the power of the personal connection. This scene is likely very familiar to us. In GOA parishes, it may look slightly different. I'm Antiochian. I go to an Antiochian parish. So at the end of the service, parishioners come up and kiss the cross. But I know your parishes, the priest or the bishop will hand out the blessed bread at the end of the service, but very similar. At my parish, when parishioners come up to kiss the cross, my priest, Father Anthony, takes the time to say hello, greet each person with a hug, and finds a way to connect with them on a personal level. I believe Father Jamil may have said something along these lines during his talk. So sure, the dismissal takes a little bit longer. Actually, it takes a lot longer. Coffee hour is half over by the time everyone gets down there. But there's a line, and people wait to greet Father Anthony and to be greeted. It gives every single parishioner a personal connection. This sets the tone for how our parishioners that are within the community relate with one another as they're all heading down to coffee hour themselves. And there's a lot of greeting and a lot of camaraderie that happens. It kind of breaks the ice and shows, hey, we should all be doing this too. People want connection. We as humans are meant to be in relationship with one another. In fact, we are saved in relationship. If we cannot connect personally with our parishioners, no amount of technology will matter at all. No amount of technology or good marketing can replace the human connection. But sometimes it's not a bad idea to get your tech and communications in order. So here we go. This is St. John Church in Charleston, West Virginia. This is their website.
Wow, that's a nice website, Jamil.
The website is still the standard in online communications. Certainly there are those who spend more time on social media than anything else, but the website should be the backbone of your online strategy. All things online should stem from your website, even if your visitors may be accessing your content through other sources. If that doesn't mean anything to you, I'm happy to have a deeper conversation with you, either here or you can always call our office, and I can explain the nitty-gritty of it. It's not worth going into. So current statistics state that a website's design is the #1 criterion for one's determining the credibility of an organization. So this is a website that exists in the world. It's not worstwebsiteever.com, but I've branded it that. And if your parishioners or visitors or those who are seeking out a new community come to your website and have an experience that might be similar to what you're experiencing looking at this, they're going to click away, they're going to move on, and chances are they will never actually ever step foot in your parish. Anecdotally, I can vouch for this in some ways. We have parishioners at my parish who have made a point to say that they began coming to our parish as a result of what they saw and experienced on our parish's website. And I've heard from some of you over the years and those around the Archdiocese that they have had similar experiences. Now, your parish website may be far from perfect, and because of the rate at which technology changes, how industry standards evolve so rapidly, and how expectations of what we're going to needing to be doing online increase more and more, it can be a daunting task for you to imagine taking this on alone. And I know some of you are alone in your ministries, or at least in terms of those who are employed full-time in your parishes, and a lot of things fall on you to take on alone. At the Department of Internet Ministries, we try to develop tools and resources to help you, and I know many of the other departments, both on the Archdiocese and Metropolis level, try to do the same. We encourage you to take a look at those resources, because we know you can't do things alone. And even with a large parish, when you have a large staff, these resources can be helpful to you. So here are some things that I can say about what makes a good website. #1, it must be useful. Does it speak to your intended audience? If you know your audience, remember what we talked about before? You can craft your message online to speak to that audience. Now, do you intend to welcome new parishioners to your parish? Or perhaps you intend to speak to existing parishioners? Or perhaps you're trying to do both? That is where planning comes into play. If you want to reach new parishioners, but are saying nothing at all on the homepage or anywhere else on your website about how and when to get to church, and why you would like them to come to church, then maybe you need to make some adjustments. It's important to don the lens of someone else when looking at what you're saying, the resources you're producing, either online or offline. Stop thinking about it as Father Costa, but think about it as Parishioner Joe or neighbor Jim or Susie who has never stepped foot in your parish before. Think about it from their eyes. Are your visitors able to find the things you want them to find? Perhaps an upcoming calendar of events. Perhaps resources for spiritual nourishment. How about contact information for you, the ministry staff, or the office staff? Are there online donation forms? I'll say this, there have been several times that I've had friends whose family members have passed away, and I've wanted to make a donation, and because I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer, but I operate maybe like a millennial in some ways, but in many ways, definitely not. In many ways, like many of you, you go online to do financial transactions. If I want to make a donation, I'm going to go to their website. I'm not going to take the time to write out a check, send a letter in the mail to make that donation. And so I'll go to the parish website, and I'll search and search and not find an online donation form. There's no way for me to give, even though I want to give. And I encourage you, not that it's all about money, but this is just one anecdote, one example to offer. Your website must also be useful to you. Do forms and other information on your website make your job easier? Or do they encourage people to want to attend your parish? If the website is not serving your parish's needs, go and make a change. You can also utilize statistics and analytics to see what content on your website is being accessed. If stuff that you want people to find isn't being viewed, you can make a change. If you find that people are accessing content that is 5 or 10 years old, and you don't want them to see it, or you don't need them to see it because you'd rather them see something else, take that content down. Now, I'll also say this, it's okay to be focused. And in a lot of ways, maybe we should be a little bit more focused with our websites than we currently are. It's not essential that your website is all things to all people. And I know Father George mentioned that about the Archdiocese website. And maybe in some ways it's good, but in other ways, maybe we need to change how we've crafted things and how we've organized things on the Archdiocese website too. Sometimes a Swiss Army knife is the right tool. And it's great to have a Swiss Army knife because it lets us do a lot of things. But sometimes a good pair of pliers is what you need, because the pliers that come on the Swiss Army knife aren't going to get the job done. Perhaps your website needs to do one thing really well. How about welcoming parishioners to your parish? It can do other things, of course, but you need to decide what is best for your parish right now. I don't mean right now, like now. I mean like at this time and stage in your parish's life. So number 2, it must be inviting. Do you offer a welcome message, either in text form or video? We say that a photo speaks 1,000 words, but a video in some ways speaks 1,000,000 words. Videos are tremendous, and if you don't have a welcome video, a welcome message on your parish's website, go grab a mobile phone, or if you have a better camera, grab a camera, record a 30 to 45 second welcome message. Tell people what a joy it is that they've come to visit you today and how you want to see them in your parish and to call you. It's so simple. We could write a script right now that every one of you can use. There's no reason why it has to be challenging. Go ahead and do that when you get home. Are there engaging or captivating photos of people and your community in action? Do your visitors feel that your parish might be a place that they would want to visit or even call home? How about this one? Are you maybe using words that are foreign to people who are coming to visit? Things like, and ready? Cathedral, Theotokos, Archons, Philoptokos. These are all words that are foreign to a non-Orthodox and a non-Christian audience. And without offering an explanation, you might keep some people feeling left out. I know we are very proud of our heritage. I'm not Greek, I'm Lebanese, but I'm very proud of being Lebanese. I know many of you are proud of being Greek or Russian or Slavonic or Slavic, whatever it is. But sometimes when we say things like, we are a parish comprised of 500 families of Syrian American origin, that might be enough to say to someone who is not Syrian that this might not be the place for them. Number 3, it must be current. And I know His Eminence is big on this one, as are we. Are your latest announcements talking about events from last year? Are your latest photos on your website from Pascha 2012? Your content must be updated regularly. If you can't find a way to keep it updated, you must utilize a strategy for your website that does not reveal that to your visitors. You can keep a simple, elegant website with minimal information that requires little upkeep, that offers that new, fresh look without revealing that you don't have the time to be updating it constantly. Yeah?
You can also just, on your website, link to a Facebook site, which is so much easier to keep refreshed.
Yeah, if you are updating social media sites, you should be linking to them from your website. And if you don't have the time to take care of both your website and social media, or maybe your email newsletter, whatever it is, the one thing that you're utilizing, make sure it's clear to your parishioners through your website. This is how we communicate. We'd love to be able to communicate more, but at this time we can't do more, so go here to find out more. And number 4, it must be accessible. It is essential today that your website is mobile friendly. Now, more than ever, people in the United States and worldwide use their mobile devices to access the web. Your website traffic right now is likely receiving between 40 and 60% of its traffic from people on mobile devices. But just a show of hands, how many of you have, I'll ask you first, how many of you have never used a mobile device to access a website? Less than 10, and maybe it might have even been less than 5. All of us, or the remainder of us, not to leave you all out, but the remainder of us, on a daily basis, and I don't have my phone even on me, are relying on our phones to communicate, to run our parishes, for those in the business world to do business, to do banking, whatever it is, we rely on our mobile devices, and that will just increase more and more over time. If you host your website with Internet Ministries, I guarantee your website is already mobile friendly, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 of you. If we don't host your website, it's possible that you have a mobile friendly website. It's possible you don't. And I'm happy to work with you to help identify some of the things that might be lacking. If you or your parishioners are using social media, there are things that can be done behind the scenes on your website to ensure that when content from your website is shared through social media, through Facebook or Twitter, that it will actually look good when it appears on those platforms with proper thumbnails, titles, descriptions, etc. You want what you post, and you want what others are posting about you to be appealing and interesting. You may have the best message and gift to offer, but if it does not get someone's attention in this hyper-saturated world, it will get lost in the shuffle. The responsibility of managing all of these platforms can be daunting. We've already touched on that. The worst thing you can do is spread yourself too thin and end up becoming ineffective in your communication efforts. I know at times I'll hear clergy say, well, maybe we can get a team that can help us get set up on the Facebook. First of all, your teens aren't even using Facebook anymore. I can guarantee that one. They're onto Instagram, Snapchat, and likely some platform that you have never even heard of before. So forget about them with Facebook. Maybe one of your young adults, or maybe one of your adults can help you with Facebook. It's really not a bad idea. You want to get others involved in your ministry, utilizing their talents and gifts to the glory of God. But just like throwing technology at a problem, it doesn't offer a solution on its own. If you get others involved in your online ministry, make certain that you loop them into your mission, your vision, your why. You may not know how to post something on Facebook, but you can know your goals and you can offer appropriate direction and guidance to whoever you get involved. Even if that one young person in your parish is able to operate on their own, you want to keep them connected to other members of your communications team, your church secretary, parish council, other ministry leaders, etc. And speaking of that, I don't want you to underestimate the gifts of your more seasoned parishioners. There are so many ways to contribute to an online communications and marketing team. It really does not matter what age they are. You'll need people who love to write, people who love to edit and find typos and mistakes, people who love to take photographs, people who love to use social media, regardless of age. I want you to challenge your parishioners to get involved in this growing and important ministry and this communication effort, and trust that they can be an active part, and instill in them the confidence that they can be a part of it. Just a short point about email marketing. Utilizing a bulk mailing list, you can easily reach your parishioners. I saw some of you today working on email messages in between sessions or during sessions. I won't call you out on who you were. You can easily send out a PDF of your weekly bulletin over email, and you could craft more and more interesting and creative messages that get sent out by email, perhaps even sent out over text message. Whether you're using the Archdiocese free listserv program or another system such as MailChimp, Constant Contact, any of the paid or free texting services that are out there, these are options that you should consider. But here's something to remember, and I'll repeat what I said before. No matter what technology you use, it's not going to be the solution in and of itself. Even with a great email newsletter, many of your parishioners may not ever see it. Your parishioners may tell you that they don't check email anymore. And even if they do, they get so much email that it just kind of is a glaze and they tune out, or they, once a week just do select all and delete because there's just too much email for them to get through. So what's even the point? Well, like I said, you need to know your parishioners. You need to be in relationship with them. And you can be in relationship with them through the technology. But if you're just sending them something and you're really a distant face that they haven't really connected with, they're not going to want to read your message. It's as simple as that. Talking with someone now is always better than talking to them. Certainly with technology, communication with your people can be about conversation, especially email, text messaging, and social media. You want to make them feel invested in the process. You need to be open to feedback and be open to their involvement and participation. Okay, next topic. Who here remembers or even recognizes what this is? Or who doesn't, I should say, who doesn't have an idea of what this is? You can just silently nod if you want. In another audience, people would not have a clue what this is, the Yellow Pages, right? This is where we used to go to find a local business, maybe a restaurant, a doctor, you name it. And our parishes, for a long time, were listed in these Yellow Pages. There are now online directories. Maybe many of you have been using them. Online directories are essential ways to find local businesses or businesses to be found, dentists, hairstylists, restaurants. They're the Yellow Pages of the modern age, and they are essential for us. Can your neighbors find your parish on Yelp, Foursquare, CitySearch, TripAdvisor, Google Directory, thenot.com? Or how about your GPS, your navigation system? Does your parish show up on all of these or even any of them? Whether you want to be found as a parish community for your Greek festival, For your facilities, for weddings, receptions, and other rentals, or more, directory services are essential in your online communication strategy. It really just takes one time to get set up on each of these platforms. You probably heard, you're probably already listed on many of these without even knowing it. But with just your basic, telephone book information, who you are, maybe what your phone number is, and what your address is. You'll want to go to each of these sites and click on the link to claim your business, or there might be a question, is this your business? And if you're operating in the parish, if you're at the phone number that's listed, it might call the parish phone number just to verify that you are who you are, or they might send you a card in the mail that has a code in order for you to claim it. But once you do that, you can then fill out all of the information about you that you want. If you ever contact us, we can give you a list of what those were and maybe even other ones. And we have an article on our blog site that talks a little bit more about this. Once you're listed, you'll be able to add in your accurate contact information, if any of it is incorrect, maybe some nice photos of your parish, and other relevant information. And the next thing that you're going to want to do is encourage your parishioners to write reviews about you. Wouldn't it be nice if you were listed in the top 10 parishes in your hometown or neighborhood? Well, actually, that's what's happened here for the Cathedral. In the Short North neighborhood, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where we are now, the Cathedral is number 7 listed in the list of churches when you search for churches in Short Point. And this is important because you want to be found. And if you're not in the top 10, if you're on page 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, people that are earnestly looking for you are just going to give up. Perhaps your recent sermon was reviewed on one of these sites. Or perhaps the food at your Greek festival. With the Web 2.0, everyone has had a voice, for better or for worse. One Yelper for St. Nicholas in Youngstown wrote, "I don't usually Yelp God or churches. It just seems a bit too risky. But I don't have a problem putting up a 5-star review when God's people make food this good." They're talking about it. Oh, there you go. About this parish here, Annunciation Cathedral, a reviewer on Yelp wrote, "What it is a place of worship, a cathedral, and it's one of the most beautiful buildings in Columbus. They give free tours from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. The outside is impressive enough, but inside, we marveled at the intricate designs of the mosaics which are everywhere. The amount of labor and detail involved in creating the works of art in this building is simply astounding. You can tell, ready for this, that the tour guide had immense pride in this place, in her culture and her people's history. Go there and see for yourself. You will be amazed at what we have right here in our own backyard." Are others talking about your parish? Are they saying the things you would hope they would say about you? I don't know this parish at all. I don't know who this tour guide was, but clearly she was invested in the mission and in that why. Another directory, of course, that matters is the Archdiocese and Metropolis parish directories. We often will check, but sometimes you all are changing your websites without letting us know. If you could go to the Archdiocese website and check out the parish directory and see if your website is actually listed correctly. If we're pointing to an older website of yours, please let us know so that we can get that updated. Just a bit of housekeeping. Okay. So now everything that I've mentioned thus far, having a useful, good quality website, having good content that is being shared over email and social media, and getting listed properly in these directory services, it should put you in a good place when it comes to being found online, whether it's Google, Yahoo, Bing, or any of these other search engines. Well, we did a little experiment. So now if you were to perform an online search for Orthodox or Greek Orthodox, and then insert your parish's city name, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Charleston, Cleveland, Youngstown, Harrisburg, you name it, I would hope that your parish shows up as the top result. And at the very least, on that first page in the top 10 listing. We checked all of your websites out, and we found some varying results. Some were number 1, number 2, number 5, number 8. Some didn't show up until page 2 or 3. And I'll get into a little bit more detail. If you'd like to see our study, you can come see me and I can tell you a little bit more about your parish. Now that's all well and good if someone is looking for an Orthodox parish in your city. But what about if they're just looking for a church? Not even an Orthodox church. Or what about Christianity in Huntington, West Virginia? What about a faith-based community? Or a place that feeds the poor? Where will you show up? I don't know. Now I did a search for church and Columbus. And guess what? Nowhere to be found. Well, why not? And this goes back to something I said earlier. It's because this isn't a church. It's a cathedral. And I believe everywhere on the website speaks to how this is a cathedral. But does cathedral mean anything to someone who has never been in a cathedral before? Maybe they've heard of it in their art history class or some world history class. But if they're looking for a church in Columbus, where will this parish show up? And if you search for Christianity in Columbus, you get a lot about the founding of, or the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus. So sometimes some things don't work out so well. Maybe church in Bethlehem is going to not have your parish as the first result. But it's all about language. It's about words. Words matter. Lingo that works for us may not work for those who are trying to find you. So what are the things that you're known for, and what are the things that you want to be known for? Can you be found online when people search for those things? So I want you to think about what are the things that you want to be known for, and do a search. Google it. Use whatever search engine you like, and see if you come up. Where is it that you come up? And what can you do to craft your online presence in order to be a player in that game? So the two-edged sword of technology and digital communications is that it allows us to easily connect with many people at a click of a button. We can disseminate a message to hundreds of our parishioners so easily from anywhere at any time. Yet there is no guarantee that the depth of absorption will in any way equal the breadth of reception. Said another way, with online communications and the digital landscape, we have grown accustomed to measuring success quantitatively rather than qualitatively. At a Bible study, would you rather have 50 people show up and there being a minimal amount of engagement? Or would you rather 3 people to show up and have a deep, heartfelt discussion about how a particular passage has great meaning in these people's lives at that moment? When you post something on Facebook, don't you sit in anticipation at the number of likes and comments as it increases over the hour and 2 hours to a satisfactory amount? If you only get 3 likes on a post, aren't you a little bit disappointed? Would you ever follow up, though, with those 3 people and have a discussion about what it is they liked about your post? No, I can't imagine anyone actually does that. But it's because we've been accustomed to care about numbers and not quality of engagement. Aren't really relationships that you have in your lives based on depth? It is those deep relationships upon which you rely when the going gets tough. Your 752 Facebook friends are meaningless unless you can call on any one of them when you are in a difficult spot and need to talk to someone. And the same goes with communication with our parishioners. Depth is hard to measure quantitatively, but breadth isn't so hard at all. We can see that 150 parishioners opened and read our latest email newsletter. We can see that 12 people shared last week's sermon, and it got 1,100 views. And those things are all great and important. But we must not forget that in order to bring the gospel message alive in people's lives, in order for them to feel invested in the life of our community, And in order for our communities to truly become spiritual homes and families, we must go deep. Okay, so just real briefly, I want to just touch a little bit on some of the statistics from our study. And like I said, you can come see me afterwards and I can share a little bit more and maybe sit down and explore your websites with you and give you a little bit more feedback. So, the Department of Internet Ministries of the Archdiocese hosts 49% of your Metropolis's parish websites. It's not a good thing, not a bad thing. We're happy to offer free hosting to all of you. We're happy that some of you have taken it, but we're also happy to see that many of you have also found the ability to make websites on your own with other platforms that are out there. 60% of your parishes are on Facebook. Whether you're actively using them or not, we didn't go that deep. And again, that's not a bad thing or a good thing. If you feel it's important for your parishes to be using Facebook, great. If this number inspires, or any of these numbers inspire you to explore Facebook as a possible means of communicating, great. Here's a not so great one. Just in a brief survey, we could have spent a lot more time digging, and maybe the number would be a little bit higher, but we found that only 53% of your websites appear to be updated regularly. And by regularly, I mean enough so that when someone comes to the website, they don't question whether it's being touched at all or anyone is really paying attention. Maybe it's something that the latest announcement is from a month ago, or the last sermon is from the summertime. But here is one thing, and the reason why I said the last thing is something that is important, and it goes back to one of the points I mentioned earlier. 78% of your websites are appealing and or attractive. And so even if it isn't the most current, someone isn't going to be turned off from by your website, and they're going to want to learn more. So give them the opportunity to learn more and give them the opportunity to grow deep. So now here are some statistics about those Google searches. So, when searching on Google for Orthodox city name, on average, your parishes showed up at rank between 2 and 3. 2.8 was the average ranking for Orthodox and then your parish's city. But here's where it gets interesting, I think. When searching on Google for church and then your parish's city, on average, your parishes showed up on page 5 at rank 41.8. Now, some of your parishes showed up on page 1. Some of them showed up far further down than we were willing to explore. We kept clicking and clicking and didn't find your parish, and so we gave up. So it's important, right? You want to be found. So why not do what you can to craft your website and other tools to be able to be found. So I hope that through this presentation I've provided you with some answers, certainly, but I hope that it's provided you with some questions as well, and that you'll be able to take those questions back to your parishes to discuss and to explore. If you feel that you're drowning by the idea of jumping into any of these realms, taking on any more responsibilities. Believe me, I understand, I said it already, we don't expect you to be able to do all things, and we're here. We want you to contact us and see how we can help. Start slowly. Have checkpoints every few months. See how you can get other people involved in the process. But most importantly, how are you utilizing technology to enhance or enable real relationships with your people, with your neighbors, and with those who need you and the ministry that your parish can and should be offering? How will you utilize marketing and digital communications to share your why to your parishioners and to the communities that surround you? What is the message that you are saying, and what is the message that is being said about you? You'll be offering both implicit and explicit messaging in your communications and presence in your community. Be aware of both and what that says to both your existing parishioners and potentially new ones. At the Department of Internet Ministries, it is always an honor to be able to work with and serve you. It's an honor to be here. We're available to answer questions, to guide you, to offer the tools and services that we have at our disposal to enhance your digital ministry. Please reach out to us at any time with any questions. We enjoy serving you, the parishes who are the front lines of ministry. Thank you.